Whew, okay. The break is finally over, and we got a new chapter of One Piece. And holy shit, what a chapter it is. I hope you guys have enjoyed the time we've spent with Roger and his crew as much as I have. Because who knows if we're ever gonna get something like that again. Being able to follow the Pirates King journey as closely as we were able to the last couple of chapters was a privilege that I didn't expect to happen as soon as it did. And this final chapter of him in the flashback had almost as many emotions in it as it had mystery. From what we can tell from the first couple of rough translations of the chapter, a lot of crazy stuff is being teased and hinted at here. And just as a quick disclaimer, I've read 2 translations of the chapter so far. Both were a bit different, and as we know, the translation might not be the most reliable, so take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt, especially when it comes to wording or specific phrases, stuff like that. On the other hand, other parts of the chapter of course can be understood pretty much in their entirety by just the visual context. But now enough about that, after all we've been waiting for some fresh One Piece content for quite some time. So buckle up, this chapter will be a wild ride. In a way, this chapter could almost be seen as 2 parts, since both parts contain so much information and are fundamentally different in the story context. But we'll definitely get to both parts in the end. Chapter 968 of One Piece is out, and what a chapter it was. I'm not gonna lie, this really gave me the closure I wanted for Roger's flashback, while at the same time hyping me up crazily for going back to Wano as well. It looks like the flashback will soon be coming to an end, so let's enjoy it while it lasts. Oden, Roger, Whitebeard, all of them are such amazing and badass characters. I think we will only truly be able to appreciate this flashback arc once it's over. There's just so much that has happened, and I can't wait to talk about it all again in more detail. As always, let me know your thoughts and ideas about this chapter in the comments below. Also, if you enjoy this kind of video, I would be very happy if you left me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for even more One Piece content. For now though, we kick off the chapter after Roger has already found the One Piece. And we see Shanks in tears reunited with Roger, asking him something that we can't really understand. My guess is that this will be something addressed in a flashback that we will hopefully, fingers crossed, be getting for Shanks, once we meet him. We also see the news of Roger's final adventure spreading across the world like a wildfire. And as a small Easter egg, I think we even get to see the towers of Alabasta in one of the panels there. Meanwhile, Roger seems pretty pleased with the title of Pirate King that he's been given by the world government. What I think is interesting here is that, at least for me, it kind of confirms that Roger, as well as Luffy, probably didn't say, "I want to be Pirate King," when they were cut off. So I'm now even more curious than ever about that statement. Additionally, Roger basically also confirms again that the One Piece contains some sort of information about the D-Clan and its meaning. I know that that's not exactly really big news, but I still think it's interesting that it's specifically stated here. Also, quite soon after discovering Laugh Tale and ending their final journey, Roger decides to finally disband his crew, and he decides to drop off everyone one by one. In the background, we can still see the egg. It's still unhatched and it's still on board the ship. So I really wonder what happened to it and where it is now. It evidently isn't part of the One Piece, and we also don't know whether it hatched or not. And speaking of hatching, the next passage of this chapter is most likely the most confusing and probably at the same time the most important of the entire chapter. We see the Roger pirates traveling underwater once again, passing the Sea Kings that can only be understood by Roger's and Oden's voice of all things. Before we get into the details here though, I want to note something else now that I think about it. Why would they travel through Fishman Island again after coming from Laugh Tale and going to Wano? Like, doesn't that mean Laugh Tale is not even located in the New World? That would honestly be a crazy detail in the chapter, because it would most likely mean that we might already have passed where the One Piece is hidden at some point in the story. The other option, of course, is that this is just another flashback in the flashback, and Roger is simply remembering this encounter now after having found the One Piece. Actually, now that I look at the sequence of panels, I think that's probably what it is. Oh well, anyway. The Sea Kings talk about someone being born and 2 kings meeting again. Now, if we go with the most obvious answer here, the person being talked about would clearly be Shirahoshi. Oda implies as much as well by showing us the encounter between Roger and Charlie, who is predicting the mermaid's birth. But that still leaves the question, however, who are the two kings? Is one Shirahoshi, or Momo, or Luffy, or Imu? This is some very serious stuff we're getting into right now, like real endgame stuff. And interestingly enough, after tearfully saying goodbye to Roger, who wants to meet Whitebeard one last time before his death, his crew sails back to Wano and Oden talks about opening the borders until Joy Boy reappears. What the? Now, this is something that I want to confirm in the official translation, but if the gist of this is true, holy shit. Now, I know a lot of you might have just had very traumatic memories coming back of the reincarnation stuff from Naruto. That kind of ruined the ending of the story, at least for me personally. However, before anyone gets upset by the possibility of Luffy being Joy Boy, I want to remind you that One Piece has had a very different premise than Naruto, where inherited will and destiny are really big themes in the story. Also, of course, this doesn't have to mean that Luffy is literally Joy Boy, but rather that Luffy might have inherited his will, for example. Or of course, it could not involve Luffy at all and refer to someone or even something else. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this though, since I think this is something that has pretty big implications for the story. At this point, however, with Oden saying goodbye to the crew, we very suddenly return to Wano itself and back to the original story arc. It almost feels like Roger's story was a layer under the Whitebeard layer, under the Oden layer, and that under the current Wano arc, if you know what I mean. Now we're back to only one layer away from the main storyline, and now we're coming to the Orochi and Kaido part of this flashback, which might not have as many crazy implications for the endgame as the part with Roger, but boy am I excited for this part as well. As expected, Oden finds Wano already heavily suffering under Orochi's and Kaido's rule. After some initial heat between him and the retainers, he is filled in on what has happened. Apparently, in an attempt to remove Kaido and Orochi, Kinemon and the others tried to attack the castle. However, while they were away, Kaido came to Curry in an attempt to take Momo, and in the process, Toki was hit by an arrow in the leg. However, everyone was able to escape and then somehow return to the castle. How they managed to pull that off, however, is not really shared by Kinemon here. Toki then shows the scar on her leg from the arrow to Oden. But why? Why show a detail like this here? Why show it now? Now, bear with me here guys, but I honestly think that Oda planted this detail into the story on purpose. I believe that we will see someone with this exact same scar again somewhere in Wano. The theory that Kumurasaki is actually Toki has been around for quite some time, and I think this detail gives it even more credibility. Finally, upon hearing this story, Oden of course rushes off to the castle and starts cutting his way towards Orochi, who is in shock upon seeing him arrive. Oof, okay, wow, what a chapter. I don't know about you guys, but this felt almost a bit overwhelming in a way. So much information and so many emotions in this chapter, and I guess I'm probably not the only one whose head is overflowing with ideas right now. So make sure to share yours with me in the comments below now. And also don't forget to like and share this video and hit the subscribe button to become part of the crew if you aren't already. But of course, as always, you can also dislike, not share, and unsubscribe. It's a free world, people. I hope to see you around next time, and until then, have a wonderful week. Oh, yeah, and if you're still here, I just wanted to let you guys know that there's gonna be some new and a little bit different content coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. I'm looking forward to sharing a couple of new things with you. Okay, I think that's everything. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.